Hello everyone and welcome to January's Sustainability Spotlight. Today we are joined by Kate from Supercool, a digital design agency that House has recently employed to design our beautiful new website. As part of that website project, we put at the top of it, our brief was around sustainability and accessibility. Supercool are really passionate about that, in particular Kate, so we thought we'd ask her onto this call to tell us a little bit about why it's important to consider sustainability in your website design, and also to maybe provide a few little tips for you as well for quick, easy wins as well. So, Kate, I've just got a few questions for you. So, firstly, why is it important to consider sustainability in web design?
Thanks. Hello. I think one thing we can forget about when we're looking at sustainability is just the impact of our digital activity. This comes in lots of different forms. We have a whole supply chain, so we have the impact of servers, SAP being cooled, powered by electricity. We then have the electricity needed to transfer data from our servers over to devices, whether it's your laptop, computer, tablet, whatever it is. We then have the power that those devices use to run. So you might find that if you've been drawn into an especially addictive game on your mobile phone, you might find that it absolutely drains the battery really quickly, and therefore you're going to need to charge it more often. So everything we do digitally has an impact on how much energy is used across the planet. Now, servers on their own, if we ranked them along with countries for energy use, they would rank at around 17. So that just gives you an idea of how much energy just servers alone are using. So what we need to do with our websites is keep them lean and fast and avoid consuming more energy than needed. I think the other thing we need to bear in mind is that obviously the population's growing, and countries like India and China are developing, and we're just going to see the energy consumption around digital technologies grow and grow. So if we can kind of do things now to try and curb that growth, then it will definitely benefit us in the future.
Absolutely fantastic. I think people don't necessarily realise the impact they can have with their website. I think you hear about cryptocurrencies and data, and mining that way is causing huge issues for carbon footprint, and it can be very damaging. But wondering, in what ways can a badly designed website lead to higher digital carbon footprint?
So there's a few different things that can happen. So one of them is just how much code and interactions and animations and stuff going on the website that can significantly impact how much power is needed for a user to engage with that website. So if anyone's ever said to you, check out this cool website, isn't it nifty, and you've gone to that website and your laptop sounds like it's about to take off, that's because it's needing a huge amount of processing power just to process the code and the information that's coming from that website. So we can essentially design websites that consume huge amounts of energy, and that's kind of from the code side of things. There are other things that can influence it as well. So if you're not considering your hosting setup, if you're just going with the cheapest bog standard hosting you can get, there's a chance there that that is not running on any renewable or carbon offsetting type schemes, and therefore you're going to generate a bigger footprint there. And then the other end of that is just purely how much content you're putting on the website. The more content you have, the more storage space it needs, and therefore the more energy it needs to kind of manage the servers to store that. So there's lots of things we can do. I think what's interesting with a lot of that is that, you know, from a design point of view and a code point of view, if we're building something that is requiring a huge amount of energy from the end user's devices to engage with, chances are it's also not very accessible. It's going to be quite slow for people who are on slightly older devices or who don't have great Wi-Fi or on a mobile network. And it's not going to be very easy to use, and then that lowers the accessibility level as well. So quite often, if we can improve the kind of carbon footprint and make it as lean as possible, we can also improve the accessibility of the website as well.
Yeah, it's a win-win, isn't it? You were really helpful with us, when we were designing our website, of just being an external pair of eyes and being like, do you need this on your website? Is this something that needs to be brought up every time for everyone? Who is it benefiting? Is it something that can be brought offline and just stored for your own use and shared with people as and when they ask or need it? And the link with accessibility as well just makes sense. The less scrolling and ways of finding your way through this big, huge sitemap, the more accessible it will be as well. So my next question is, what easy ways are there for people to cut down on their website carbon footprint?
The easiest way is just delete content, which sounds terrifying, right? Like, none of us want to go onto our websites and just delete all of the content. But what tends to happen over time is websites become a bit of a organizational information dumping ground. So it will have all our past news entries, it will have all our past productions, it might have all of our past kind of events that have happened, or tours that have happened, or all sorts of things. And essentially that becomes a dumping ground of historic information. When we look at this and dig into this a bit more, we tend to find that there are very few people visiting those pages, and I mean sometimes very few. I was working with an organisation who wanted to work out how much of their old blog content to pull over to the new website. And we were looking at articles from 2 years ago that had not had a single visitor in the course of, the last year. Basically, once you stop shouting about it, once you stop posting it and sharing it via social media channels, and once it's lost that timely element, nobody's looking at it. So the one thing you can do is have a look at that old content and just delete it. And one thing we did with you, John, and the team is we really pushed you to consider who that content is for. And we did some workshopping around who your audiences are, what it is they're looking for, where are they going to find that information. And really, we sort of came to the conclusion that your archive is most useful for you as an organization internally, and you're probably storing all that information internally anyway. It's probably on a hard drive somewhere or share drive. It's the financial information, the name of the shows, all of that is stored somewhere else. So we don't necessarily need it on the website. But what we do need on the website is information about your impact. So suddenly we're not communicating your impact as an organization by saying, here's a back catalogue of 50 performances that you can just read through. Instead, we're saying our impact is we've brought X number of shows to the region that would never have been here otherwise, or our shows have been seen by this many audiences. So I think you asked what the easiest thing is, and I've kind of covered a few things there, from just going in and deleting those old blog posts and old things, to actually things that seem a bit scary when it comes to thinking about your archive and how that's used and kind of how users are engaging with your website. But if you're willing to put a bit of time towards it, it's not that difficult. I don't know what your experience was, John, of doing those kind of user workshops and things that we did.
I found them really helpful, actually, and it was amazing how putting sustainability at the top of our sort of priorities, how it really affected our content and comms strategy. Thinking like, okay, who is this for? Who's going to read this? What's the most beneficial way that we can share this information that people will engage with? And it was really, down to thinking about this as well and putting it at the top of our priorities. So it was really good to have someone external to think about it, and it has really helped us plan forward, what information we share and how we remain something which people engage with and can understand exactly what we're up to. So that's been really good. But down to little things as well about do we need to upload the largest image size? Can we crop it before we put it online as well? And how that helps load times and other things like that. For other people who are possibly not maybe looking to look at changing their website now, but want to make little changes, or just to start maybe the process of reviewing their own website, how can people measure the impact or the carbon impact of their website?
So there's a really great website, and I'm just going to grab it up before I give everyone the wrong one, called websitecarbon.com. It's a really brilliant website where you can pop in a page URL and it gives you a reading of how much carbon is emitted per page view of that page. So something that you can do really easily is you can have a look in analytics at what your top 5 pages are. That's quite easy to see, you know, your top 5 most visited pages. You can have a look at what the carbon footprint of those pages is. And that basically gives you a benchmark. So it says right now you have X number of users coming to these pages. This is the carbon footprint per page view. This is how much these 5 top pages are kind of emitting. You can then go through those pages and start to consider making changes. So can you reduce some of the content on there? Are there some images that are not necessarily needed? Things like images, videos, they tend to be, or any embedded content tends to be pretty heavy compared to text. You can really take a moment to look at that content and say, what's my key message here? And am I clearly communicating it? And that will help put your users first and probably help you streamline that content as well. So once you've done that kind of review process of those 5 pages, streamlined it, you can then measure those pages again and see what a difference you've made. We're working at the moment with Orchestras Live, who support orchestras across the UK and do all sorts of fantastic projects. They've done a really great job of measuring the content across their website, and they're using that to then inform content guidelines going forwards so that they can keep that carbon footprint reduced. But Website Carbon is a fantastic page. It runs it really quickly. It also does a really nice thing if it says how your page compares to other pages on the internet. So is it better than 95% of other pages, or is it worse than 95% of other pages? And it will also give you some context. So it would say over the course of a year with X number of users, that's the equivalent of 4 trees or however many bubbles of carbon dioxide or something like that.
Yeah, I think we were quite horrified by the numbers originally from our previous website, but I think now we're about certainly our main pages are better than about 65% of our other websites. So that's been a really good step, but there's clearly, you know, there's some still more bits we can do. So we're looking at when we're sort of building this website and adding more and more content, you know, how we're going to do that sustainably. So yeah, definitely worth having a look, and you might be a little shocked. I mean, I think in our sector, you know, obviously we're publishing loads of events, and events have, you know, big lovely images, and there are trailers, and they are, you know, bigger web pages and bigger things to load. Certainly your homepage where you might have a calendar or a what's on perhaps. So you know, it's just doing maybe little things, you know, as I was saying earlier, like maybe cutting the image size down for the web use, which is different from your print version. Just, you know, if you do that times by 20, 30 events, then, you know, that's going to have a big impact as well. So yeah. Amazing. Yeah, I think that's it.
Sorry, just to add to that, I think a really important thing when we're considering sustainability online is the cultural sector has a fantastically positive impact on society. You know, we're enriching people's lives, we're making the world a better place. And to be as sustainable as possible, yes, you would take all of your images and videos out and you would have what is essentially the gov.uk website. You know, it's as plain and as bland as possible, but that is going to stop you from having that positive impact. So what you really need to do is understand what has an impact and have a bit of information about the mechanics behind it. It's not hugely technical, but just, you know, in the back of your head, know that if I put 20 images on a blog post, it's going to be worse than if I put 10 on there, that kind of level of information, and use it to make informed decisions. And don't, you know, accept that your website will have an impact, but that's okay, because, you know, we're all doing good stuff in the cultural sector and it's not really terrible. But having that balanced approach and being able to make smart decisions is what's really key, I think, to being more digitally sustainable.
That's exactly right. No, thank you so much for that. really appreciate your time on this, and also with our project as well. There's a fantastic blog article that Supercool put together called "Your Website versus the Planet," which has got more in-depth top tips, about things that you can do, the impact that websites have, and what more you can do, whether it's just down to imagery or maybe even the font that you're using on your website, and how that can have a really big impact. You can find that blog article on the resources section on the House Theatre website. So if you head over to there, head to our resources, and then you can search by sustainability resources, and you can see a whole range of different resources there that you can use to maybe start your journey. But yeah, if you have anything on any topic around sustainability, we'd love to hear from you about what you're doing at your venue. We want to give a platform for people to share the good things that they're doing, the good projects. So please do get in touch with us if there's anything that you'd like us to shout about. Yeah. So brilliant. Thank you so much, Kate, once again for joining us. And we'll hope you join us again for a future Sustainability Spotlight.
No worries. Thanks for having me.